Donald John Trump.
It is understandable that you want to put pressure on Canada to address key issues such as trade imbalances, border security, and the fentanyl crisis. However, broad tariffs that target the entire country will primarily hurt the average Canadian rather than the leadership responsible for these policies. If the goal is to force action from the Canadian government, the focus should be on its politicians, not its struggling citizens. Consider this. The Prime Minister of Canada earns over $400,000 annually, enjoys 2 official residences, has access to government-funded security, transportation, and other perks that insulate him and his cabinet from economic hardships. While tariffs might increase costs for everyday goods, these politicians will not personally feel the effects. Meanwhile, the average Canadian, already burdened by economic struggles, will be the ones suffering the most. High inflation, a crumbling healthcare system, skyrocketing housing costs, and increasing homelessness have already placed many citizens in a difficult position. These tariffs will only make their lives harder, while the politicians continue living comfortably on taxpayer dollars. Additionally, by implementing broad tariffs, the Canadian government will spin the narrative to make it appear that the United States is to blame. Rather than directing their anger at the leadership that has mismanaged their country, Canadians will be encouraged to unite behind them in opposition to the U.S. This strengthens the very people you wish to pressure while doing nothing to hold them accountable. A more effective approach would be to target the wealth, assets, and privileges of Canadian government officials. Financial sanctions, restrictions on trade involving government-owned businesses, or targeted economic measures against the political class would force the leadership to take action without unnecessarily punishing innocent citizens. The fentanyl crisis, which is destroying lives on both sides of the border, needs real cooperation between governments. If the goal is to push Canada into stronger action, the pain must be felt by those in power, not by those who are already struggling. If these measures continue in their current form, they will not bring the intended results. The real solution is in directly holding Canada's leadership accountable, ensuring that they, not their citizens, are the ones who feel the pressure to make real change.
Unearthed, and Sam has done some marvelous investigative work on Chinese interference in Canadian elections and politics. And he's come out and said that the Liberal Party is a prime recipient of donations from the drug kingpins, the fentanyl kingpins, who are making this noxious toxic drug in Canada at super meth labs, super fentanyl labs, and exporting it, yes, south of the border and elsewhere. It's phenomenal because this implicates the RCMP, the much vaunted, some people think the greatest police force in the world, as implicitly involved in this, with CSIS turning a blind eye to this, with government agencies refusing to acknowledge that Canada is integral to the fentanyl problem, because it's not just that we have these labs set up in the mountains of the Rocky Mountains of British Columbia. We have been importing fentanyl, the precursors of fentanyl. For those listeners or viewers who aren't aware of that, these are the chemicals that are needed to essentially be refined or distilled into the final fentanyl product that makes it onto the streets, that is exported. But these precursors are coming in at the Vancouver port in huge quantities. Why? Because China controls the Vancouver ports, and less than 1% of these containers coming off the ships are being inspected. So, is it any wonder why we keep saying, well, Canada's only responsible for 1% of the fentanyl entering the United States? In fact, CNN fact checker, who used to be the Toronto Star fact checker, Daniel Dale, recently said it was 0.22% of fentanyl was coming from Canada. Well, perhaps that's only because 0.22% is being discovered. And this is the primary problem, and this is why Donald Trump knows this too. He knows the fentanyl's coming in. He knows it's going undetected at the Vancouver ports. He knows it's getting across the border, and he knows the Canadian government's doing nothing about it except putting up its hands and saying, what's the problem here, Donald? It's all coming from Mexico. Canada's not a problem here. Clearly, the research that Sam and others are doing on this file indicate that Canada is not just the problem, it's a huge part of the problem. And we're not acknowledging this in Canada. We keep saying no big deal. And, to complicate matters, we can get into this in a second, Justin Trudeau's not delivering on his promise to secure the border. There's no boots on the ground. There's no 10,000 frontline personnel. He just appointed a fentanyl czar yesterday. But guess what? The former deputy commissioner of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. He's been in the Trudeau cabinet as a deputy minister, as an advisor to Justin Trudeau since 2019. So this is another insider. This is another case of the fox is watching the chicken coop in Canada. This is not going to satisfy anybody with fentanyl being the cause. But you've hit the nail on the head with the word money, or the phrase money laundering. That's exactly what is going on here, because this money is being immediately transferred largely in Toronto and Vancouver into real estate. The other reason is that real estate is so inflated in Canada. Vancouver is more expensive than any other city in North America, except New York and Los Angeles, or San Francisco. New York and San Francisco. It's third. Why is that? Because the housing market is so overblown, has become so bloated with fentanyl drug money being laundered. And this, of course, is another key to Canada's catastrophic economic situation. We can't build homes because we can't afford to build homes. The government takes something with the left hand, drug money pushes the price of these homes up with the right hand. And what I find fascinating about this whole revelation, and it really is a mind-boggling revelation, is the interrelationship between Chinese political interference in this country. We know that they're interfering in our elections. We now know that they're interfering in our port authorities, but they're creating a fentanyl crisis in Canada. They're contributing largely and greatly to the border insecurity, and they're also creating this phony housing crisis that we have in Canada, where people can't afford an apartment, can't afford to buy a home, and we have people literally in tents, in homeless encampments from Vancouver to Halifax. And this is all because nobody wants to point the finger at the chief cause, and that's fentanyl. As Sam Cooper pointed out in his recent interview, we're going to have a Category 5 hurricane coming our way with tariffs. It's going to be nightmarish, and it's going to be entirely because Justin Trudeau has not taken this seriously. He got a 28-day reprieve. I don't think he had any intention of following through. He's appointed a fentanyl czar, who I think is completely unacceptable. It will be completely unacceptable to the U.S. authorities, to the Trump administration. And Trudeau seems to know that. I do believe that he understands the economic catastrophe that tariffs will create. I think he welcomes it because it's an opportunity for the Liberal Party, as I've said time and time again, to play off the United States, to play against Donald Trump as this horrible nemesis for Canadians. And they don't have to run against conservatives in this country. They can run against Donald Trump and his administration in the States. Donald Trump has given Justin Trudeau a lifeline and the Liberal Party a lifeline with this threat of tariff, because Trudeau and the Liberal Party have been able to mobilize Canadians around some patriotic fervor and the idea that we have to fight back. But this is largely Justin Trudeau's doing because he doesn't take this issue seriously. We need to deal with this drug problem in Canada. We need to deal with this lack of security at the border, at the ports, and the fact that our institutions, our agencies no longer have any credibility on the international stage, especially with our most trusted trading, military, and economic partner, the United States. And if Trudeau thinks this is all going to blow over, he's sadly mistaken.
Japan beat China 3-1, but during its match in China, there was one Japanese team fan who wore the jersey of Japan, and he was swarmed by a mob of Chinese fans. And the mob was screaming him like he's a traitor to China, tell him to take it off. And it's just like, they looked like they wanted some thing to happen to this guy. And he was surrounded by the police. The police forced him to take off the jersey at the end, but you can see it's literally like a mob, like hundreds of people surrounding this one guy, just because he wore a Japanese jersey.
Take down the CCP, 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 take down the CCP, take down the